has spent over 30 years at Goodyear, over manufacturing, diversity, inclusion, but just very recently started his own company called Linked XL, which is a visual operating system for strategic deployment. He was telling me about it this morning, and it sounds incredible. So really excited to hear what Billy has to say. Welcome.
Well, good morning. All right. My name is Billy Taylor. I'm here to talk about deliberate practice. And in my keynotes, I love to have fun. I love to be in a real situation. And as we go through today's presentation, I'm going to ask you to participate with me in some aspect and be comfortable being uncomfortable. Okay? And so deliberate practice, what is it? You know, although it's great to be here with you today at KataCon, I met Mike and we've had many exchanges around operational excellence. But what I really love about it, when you think of the topic Toyota Kata, right? What do you think about? It's like a two-sided coin. And if you look at that coin, one side is scientific thinking. The other side is deliberate practice. And so today I'm going to talk about the deliberate practice side. And how do you enforce and use deliberate practice in your own operations? I'm also going to talk about how do you apply it in your personal life, developing cultures as in your leadership role. So what is deliberate practice? It's practicing with a focus on specific aspects of your job, your day-to-day routines, and the day-to-day routines of the people that work in your organizations. Deliberately and repeatedly practicing. How do you go about that? So you develop a repetition of deliberate practice, not just standard practice, and two, purposeful and systematic practice. So what's the purpose of you doing what you do and breaking down the details? How do you break down the details of every job in your organization? So how does that apply to scientific thinking? Traditional practice, or regular practice, is not mindful. It's mindfulness repetition. So I'm just doing it to get the job done. I just want to get the job done. When we talk about deliberate practice, it's the focused attention on a specific goal. How do you get better? How do you break your jobs down for improvement? If you're a violinist, a tennis player, a basketball player, or an operator, it's applicable in every situation on how do you improve. But a certain core competence of deliberate practice, and we're going to talk about that. That specific goal. What is it you want to achieve? Define winning. Often, most companies miss that part, and when you do that, you do not get ownership. And in the absence of ownership, people blame. And I often do an exercise, and I did it last year. I think when you raise your hand in the air, people are going to fail. So everybody stand up, please. We're going to exercise. Most of you are about to fail. And when you fail, you're going to blame me. Okay? 5% of you are not even going to try because I just told you you're going to fail. So what we're going to do, standard work. We're going to put our hands up. We're going to go to the left. We're going to count to 3. We're going to come back to the right. Count to 3. We're going to come back in the middle and do spirit fingers. And on the count of 3, we're going to clap and wake our bodies up. Very clear what we're going to do. Hands up to the left. 1, 2, 3. To the right. 1, 2, 3. In the middle. Spirit fingers. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Now, I clearly asked you to clap on 3. Why did you clap on 2? Somebody tell me. Oh, because I did. So you're going to blame me because you can't focus. All right? Please have a seat. That's the next step, that intense focus so people can start to break the job down and get better. And next is that immediate feedback, positive and negative. Documenting those things that you need to do to improve. For instance, don't just focus on Billy, right? Because people will follow what you do before they follow what you say. But when you're breaking it down and you're creating a culture, someone can come to you and say, Billy, you clearly clapped on 2 and the goal was 3. Are you bigger than the process? And the last one is that frequent discomfort. Once we get to a peak position, we think we've made it. If we don't go back and repeat the process, then we don't develop the can-do attitude. We have a cannot-do attitude because we've never done it before. And how does this connect to scientific, the thinking piece of it? It drives the mental adaptation. It starts to be what's normal for you, the way you think. And then it drives your innovation. It actually gets outside of the box. You get outside of the box. So what are some of the challenges of deliberate practice? One, there's a challenge to remain focused. I use this in my operations every day when I did my gimbal walks. And it wasn't just a job function, it was my function of relating to my people. And so I had to break that down in steps, and I developed what's called a Billy Taylor 2-foot rule. You got within 2 feet of me, then I said hello. Because I realized people thought I was distancing myself. And so I had to have deliberate practice in my day-to-day functions. The next one is avoiding mindless activities. When you just start going through a routine, you're not really focusing. And you may be reinforcing bad habits. You're perfecting bad habits. And I had a bad habit of rushing through the floor. And let me show you what happens. I love doing high fives. We're going to do some high fives. I'm going to pick me a table back here and high five. Yep. High five. Give it up. Give it up. Give it up. Give it up. Yep. Yep. High five. High five. Yep. 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 Here we go. Yep. Give it up. Come on this table right here all the way around. All the way around. Let's do it. High five. High five. High five. What's the problem? Could you stand up and give me some BT love? All right. All right. What happens is, right, look what I was doing. I was destroying my culture. And I didn't realize I was doing that. It's not just about the job, breaking down those processes, breaking down your leadership processes. Deliberate practice is critical that you evaluate everything you do. Now you start your scientific thinking. Ways to get better, ways to get outside the box. And last, your inability to focus on one thing. We want to learn too much too fast. We live in a microwave world today. And with this process of deliberate practice, you start to slow down, you break things down, and you know where you need to focus. So what's the approach to deliberate practice? I use this illustration now in my process and everything I do. I stop focusing on the KPI. Although it's important, in this process, we focus on the KPA, the key performance actions that's going to deliver the key performance indicator. Now, if I want to lose weight, do I stand on the scale every morning and say, what happened? Or do I go over and I say, well, if I eat right, I do this, I don't eat after 8 p.m., and I do these things, I have a high probability of doing what? Losing weight. So I focus on the KPA in deliberate practice rather than the KPI. And that's what I've learned in my process that I'm doing now with companies. When operators and others understand the KPIs happen. Here's the 6 steps, and it's my personal 6-step guide to deliberate practice. 1, define winning. Define what success looks like, and then break down the process. 2, identify the weakest area, then select that to focus on at the beginning. And that's what I'm planning, I'm reflecting, and I'm taking notes. And then I start tracking small intervals. I'm not looking for the home run. It's those trends that I'm tracking so I get an idea of what it is I really need to focus on as I test new strategies. And then the learning. What I do now, I incorporate that into my daily learning and overall process of operations. Then I emulate practice, not gain performance. And after this video, I'm going to show you after this, I'm going to show you a video. And it was before the tragedy with Kobe Bryant. It was something I was studying in reference to Kobe when he was drafted as a 17-year-old, and they were gambling. Jerry West was gambling on him, and he used deliberate practice to elevate his game. And Shaquille O'Neal is going to describe the incident as Kobe was progressing, trying to be an all-star. And the last one is repeat and go over again. Just repeat and go over again. Because the area of focus is going to change. This is the video.
Off with something we want to hear from Shaq based on something that Chris Webber said earlier tonight.
Well, if I could bring that to Kobe, and I hope that Shaq has time to share this story in the studio, if he hasn't already. But Shaq, if you can hear me, big fella, please share the story of Kobe in a shoot-around, practicing dribbling with no ball, and make sure you give your explanation of how you felt at that time. But, hey, guys have weird practice habits, but do you, do you. Don't worry about anyone else.
So, Chris Webber brings it up during game one of the doubleheader, and now, Shaq, you got the story?
So this was his rookie year. He wasn't getting a lot of playing time, so, you know, shoot around is a time where you go over other guys' plays and you're supposed to be focused. So, Kenny, you be Dale Harris and just go over plays.
Okay.
And
I'll
Chuck,
turn face this way.
No, man. Just stay there. Just give over plays. So.
All right, guys. You know, here it is on the double and the pick and roll. And every pick and roll, what we're going to do is we're going to double the pick and roll. And then once he rolls to the basket, I want you to double down from the top. We're going to double down from the top on the other thing. And we're going to act. So that's what he was.
So what was Del Harris doing saying as this was going on?
We all just looking like, what is this kid doing? Like, what is it? Full speed, sweating, just pump faking and moving around the world without a ball.
I remember you
Talking to herself. You can't guard me. like just talking to herself. We're like, me, Fisher, Fox, we're all looking up like.
And this is your rookie.
Yeah, he's my rookie. So we just, we just let him be.
Did you say anything to him?
He said
No,
you let him.
I didn't say anything.
Oh, wait,
How long did that go? How long did that go
Now,
on?
here's the important
For a
part,
couple months.
what it led
No,
to.
but you see now,
Full
Shaq
speed.
has great memory, but he also forget the things that you told me before. So when I don't know if this, remember this part. You said this. He was doing this before a playoff game with Phil Jackson. He was in the back, doing the same thing.
The same thing, full
Same thing, full speed. And that's when he said, Jackson, this is when they were having their riff about who should get the ball down the stretch, give it to the big dog. And so the game was on the line, and Phil said, who should I give it to? And Shaq was like, well, give it to the guy who dribbles without a basket. Let him take the last shot. He's like, he's ready.
Oh, my goodness.
So like all the moves you used to see him do on the court, like he used to practice those moves.
Without a
No
ball.
ball.
Full speed.
Without a ball.
So why is that important? He emulated practice and eventually became one of the best players out there that ever played the game of basketball. And often we want to emulate the performance. And so this book, The Formula for Improvement, this is the book called Peak by Anderson Erickson. And what he said was purposeful practice methods plus expert coaching equals deliberate practice. And when you look at why are you here, right, with KataCon and Mike and team, expert coaching, when you go back, how are you going to incorporate this into your own world? How are you going to actually improve and get optimal performance? It's important. I'm going to close with a picture of my son. He played basketball at St. Vincent St. Mary's High School where LeBron played. And every morning we went to the gym for purposeful practice. We broke his shot down. And he actually, this is a picture where he shot 323 shots, and he made 281 of them. He made 87%. And he was sad. He sent me this picture, and he was sad. So here's where deliberate practice on the leadership side happens. And I called him. I said, son, what's the problem? And he says, Dad, although it says 87%, it didn't feel right because you weren't here. He says, I'll never forget the games you came. I never remember all the games you came to, Dad, but I'll never forget those 2 you missed. And I thought about that. He said, you never came to work on my shot. You worked on our relationship. And when they won the state championship, he didn't run to cut down the net. He ran over to me, and it wasn't about measuring those shots. Although it's critical to measure what matters, but in deliberate practice, you have to incorporate into your leadership that thing called making people feel valuable. And here's what the text he sent me when we were crying. And this is when he got back to the school, and he said, Dad, I'm crying in the car thinking about you, Dad. Thank you for always being there for me. I love you so much. You don't understand what you have done for me. My only reply was, I love you some more than life. What's comprehensive? You bring me joy. I'm blessed, God. Let me be your dad. How many of us only focus on the numbers when we're doing deliberate practice? You don't work on your personal leadership style. Break your leadership style down as well, because culture controls strategy, and deliberate practice is critical. And so I encourage you, when you leave here today, take what you learn, break it down, and use it as deliberate practice. Thank you all for having me.